dag. Dirk, before I go into the little script I got here, let's give our reactions to what we just encountered.
Yeah, that was. I don't have words for that. That was amazing. It was really strong.
Man, it just seems like everyone plays the victim anymore. Everyone loves to play the victim and loves to get whatever sympathy they can and just have an excuse. And then you got somebody who is a literal victim.
Exactly. That was done to him.
Yes.
He had nothing to do with it happening to him.
Utterly innocent.
Yes, 100%.
And it isn't an emotional scar. It's a physical disability that he may have the rest of his life.
And he doesn't see himself as a victim, though. That's what's amazing to me.
Right.
I mean, there's no victimhood in that man. He is all push forward, positivity. I'm going to get out of this damn chair. It's amazing, man.
Yeah. Mindset. Mindset is everything, I think, to be aggressive.
I love it.
Welcome to the aggressive life. Hey, this is Brian. I got a couple guests with me today. Well, one person's not a guest. It's Dirt, our very own favorite. Dirt, how are you doing over there today?
I'm doing good, BT. How are you, man?
I'm all right, though. I got to tell you, I'm a little on edge about today. You probably don't know this about me, Dirt.
I don't know why you'd be on edge.
Do you know my number one fear in all of life has always been since I was been an itty bitty kid?
Rugby.
No, not rugby, not rugby, but being paralyzed.
Ah,
yes,
yeah, okay.
Being paralyzed.
Yeah, this is going to touch a nerve then.
It's touch a nerve, pun intended.
Well, I didn't even mean that. Oh, gosh, that sounds really heartless now that I said that.
Yeah, so I'm like, okay, this could be a tough interview for me because I'm gonna have to face my fears, and it's not even happened to me. I have full use of all of my limbs, and it just kind of freaks me out. So I'm actually looking forward to getting personally pushed today because we've got Rob Paylor, and he believes he was put on earth to move people. He's a motivational speaker. He motivates people as a paraplegic. He was playing rugby at the University of California, Berkeley, and on May 16th, 2017, he was at the peak of his career playing a national championship against Arkansas State. And only 5 meters from scoring the first points of the game, his team gathers together to push across the goal line. Somebody puts an illegal headlock basically on him. And the next thing he knows, he can't move a muscle. He can't feel anything. Bam, like that, split second. He goes from college athlete and top of the world to quadriplegic. Doctors insisted he would never walk again. They went so far as to tell Rob that if he even learned to feed himself, he'd have beaten the odds. Well, here's the thing about Rob Paylor. He doesn't listen to the odds. He does not listen to the odds. It's been a slow process. He's not finished. He has been walking in a pool with only one hand on the wall. He has progress going on. He's been making aggressive moves. Today he's going to share his story with us and push me and maybe help me get over my fear. Welcome to the aggressive life, Rob Paylor.
Brian, thank you so much for having me. And for those who are listening on audio, they won't see that introduction has me blushing as red as a tomato. So
you're blushing.
Really good to be here.
Why are you blushing so much?
Those are nice words. I appreciate it.
Well, dude, they're true words. They're totally true words. They really are. I'm impressed with you. I don't even know you very well yet, but I'm going to get to know you today. So let's go back to rugby. True, false? Rugby's the most manly sport going or not?
True, 100%. So I did a podcast with Marcus Luttrell, and I think he put it best. He's the lone survivor. Mark Wahlberg played him in the movie and stuff. Just an incredible testimony. And we were kind of chatting about rugby a little bit, and he said it's like war without weapons. And pretty much couldn't be more true. The things that we do on that field would be felonies left and right if you were to do that just out in public. But I loved that about the sport. I love the physicality of it and that toughness and grit and sacrifice that you put out there on the field. I have never felt more alive than when I was on the rugby pitch. And while I was playing, I thank God every day for it.
And why do you think that rugby hasn't taken off more in the United States?
It's interesting. And there's people who have studied on this a lot and they could speak to it better than I. But at one period in the kind of early 1900s, 1800s, rugby was a very popular sport in America. They used to have 15s rugby in the Olympics. America was winning. We were the best in the world at the sport. And I think early on, as America was trying to shift its identity and build its own sports culture and really just culture in general, it started pivoting from this European contact sport of rugby to this new American contact sport of football. And, but you look at old pictures and stuff back when, UC Berkeley, which I played for, started playing the sport, and they'd be filling up football sized stadiums of people watching rugby matches. But, we got our new identity with football.
I wonder how the landscape of sports is going to change. I've been saying for a long time, Major League Baseball is just not long for this world. All due respect to all those owners who've invested billions in their teams. I just don't see it. Kids aren't playing it anymore. It's too slow. It's too boring for most people. And you've got sports that are on the rise. Lacrosse, on the rise. And I wonder if rugby may actually be on the rise with all of the CTE fears. Does rugby have the same CTE incidence as, professional football?
If I'm not mistaken, I believe it's lower. And if I'm also not mistaken, I believe rugby is the fastest growing sport in North America.
Really?
Yeah, it kind of depends where you are regionally. So over where I'm from in Sacramento, it's really a hub for rugby. We produce many national team players, All-Americans, stuff like that. Kind of San Francisco Bay Area, another hub. Go out to the east, and then just kind of scattered through, you'll see these really dominant programs where kids from the towns, it's not uncommon at all for them to be playing rugby. But yeah, when it comes to contact, it's kind of counterintuitive. We usually see slightly lower injury rates in rugby than we do football, which is counterintuitive because we don't wear any pads.
Yeah.
We've got a mouth guard. And then there's just the piece of cloth that's between, us and our shoulders that separates us from someone we're trying to tackle or run over when we have the ball. It's very physically demanding. And don't get me wrong, rugby has its injuries, as obviously we'll discuss today. But I do view it as a safer alternative to football. What happened to me certainly tips the scales.
Yeah.
But looking back on it, I mean, I have a laundry list of injuries that I had playing football and not quite as many playing rugby.
So my buddy, he's been on the podcast a few times, 512 used to play rugby, talks to me about it a good bit. He was the hooker. So give us before we get into your situation, your accent, for those of us who are much more football oriented than rugby oriented, what's the hooker? What's the basic gist? We see all these guys getting together in a huddle and just mashing their bodies on each other. I don't know if that's, I don't know what's going, but just give us a broad overview of what you guys do.
Yeah, I think when most people who don't know rugby hear the word hooker, they're thinking there's something kind of weird going on there.
Yeah, that was 512. He was a male hooker. Absolutely.
Right. So there's 15 players on a field for traditional 15s rugby, which is what I played. And we could split that most broadly into two categories. That's the forwards, big guys, and then the second group would be the backs, quicker guys, more skill players. Now, props, hookers, locks, 8-man flankers. These are your forwards. These are the people who are going around doing a lot of the dirty work. In the front row of the scrum, which is kind of that just massive human collision you were talking about, these are going to be kind of stouter players, kind of like maybe, a guard or center, defensive tackle type body type that you'd see on a football field, kind of lower center of gravity. Their job in this scrum is to just lock down their feet like a tree stump. So they don't get pushed back.
Okay, so hold right there. How do you get to the scrum? How does the scrum start? What is that? Just what every quote unquote play is a scrum?
It's not. So it's essentially starting up a new phase of play. So
it's like a jump ball.
Yeah, it's kind of like that. Just way more physical. You have all the 8 forwards on one team going against the 8 forwards of another team, bound up in unison, doing these cadences and whatnot to generate force. Where I played is the lock. So it's kind of like a tight end type. At the time, I'm still 6'5", obviously, but at the time I was 240 pounds, 20 years old. And that's pretty big for a guy who needs to be able to move the field for 80 continuous minutes. Rugby doesn't have any stoppages, just halftime, or if there were to be an injury. You have to be able to generate a lot of force, but you got to be fit. And I was kind of just like a boiler room workhorse type player. Didn't have the best skills out there on the field. I wasn't going to be throwing any crazy passes or making any crazy moves. But when it came to, getting from play to play to play, putting myself in contact, winning in contact consistently over the course of that match, I thrived at it, and that afforded me the opportunity to play at a very high level and do it well.
So take us to that fateful moment against Arkansas State. What do you remember from it, or do you even have no memory of it?
I remember everything. I remember more from that day than any day in my life. And I began the day thinking that was going to be the best day of my life. It's the national championship. I'm starting as a sophomore on the Cal men's rugby program. We're the number 1 ranked team in the nation. We're fighting for our 31st national championship on that day. And just to give some context of the success of the Cal rugby program and what it meant to be starting for this team in a game of this prestige, I think the only team that has more championships at any level, any sport than us is the Harlem Globetrotters, and their games are rigged.
Yeah,
so
right.
we were doing okay. It was quite the opportunity. I'm a lifelong athlete. As early as I can remember, I was, playing baseball or had my football pads on. It was my identity. It was who I am. It was my pride and my purpose, my passion in life. And I had reached the pinnacle. So anyways, I get up, I got those butterflies in my stomach. We've all felt them, right? Kind of that nerves the nerves and excitement that you get mixed up in there. And, we have a great pregame warm up. We felt very confident going into this game. Arkansas State, I don't believe has ever won a national championship. I'm really not sure how many they've even competed in, to be honest. We had a very, very much a been there, done that approach. We knew their weaknesses and how to exploit them. We knew their strengths, what to look out for. We felt good. I remember, standing there for the national anthem. I was praying the Our Father and Psalms 23, as I always did before I played. It gave me strength.
Are you allowed to do that at Cal Berkeley? I thought everyone had to be an atheist to be at Cal Berkeley and had to be progressive in nature and believe that God was a female or something. Are you actually able to do that?
Under my breath. But, going out on this field, you can be a little scared. It's going to hurt. It's going to be painful. That is guaranteed. But you go out there and you have to suppress that fear. You have to suppress those emotions, be completely in that moment, and do what needs to be done for your own success, for your teammates' success, for all those in the stands and the thousands of men, who've played for and supported this program. So anyways, we kick the ball off. I'm sprinting down that field. I'm psyched up. I'm ready to go. Very early on in this game, the other team commits a penalty. So we do what's called kicking it into touch. We kick it out of bounds, and where the ball goes out of bounds, that's where we have what's called a line out, which is sort of like an inbounds in soccer or basketball. We're 5 meters out. This is a very obvious mauling situation for us. And a maul is when the bigger guys regroup together in the single unit, kind of like a scrum, and we push to advance the ball, although it's done more impromptu. The defense's job is to come straight in and then stop us from pushing forward. It's the boiler room. It's where the big guys thrived, and I was a big guy. I knew this was my moment. I knew this was the time that I could go out and perform. Next day when we watch film, coach is going to be patting me on the shoulder saying, "Nice job, Rob. You helped us drive that maul in and get points on the board quickly." But as I'm doing this, the opposing players start making these illegal moves, and the referee's not calling anything. So immediately 3 players come in from the side, all infractions, things you're not allowed to do in rugby, but the ref doesn't call it. And the first player who came in, he wraps my head around into a headlock. He's pinning my chin down to my chest. Now, normally in rugby, this would be an automatic yellow or a red card, which is an immediate suspension from the game, but the ref wasn't calling anything. So in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, there's a lot going on here, kind of some uncontrollable factors that I'm dealing with as I'm trying to put this in. So on one hand, I could stand up, I could throw my arms out to the side and, say, "Hey, ref, what's going on? You're going to call this." Or I can keep moving forward. I can pound this thing in, kind of shut out those things, make no excuses and keep moving. And, that's what I decided to do. I kept my shoulder level down. I kept my legs moving. As I did this, their number 6, he chopped me down by my legs. So I start going to the ground. As I do that, the opposing player around my neck, he improves his bind. I'm trying to lift my head up. I can't do it. I remember I just closed my eyes. I gripped my teeth and then just snap. I felt this god awful crunch in my neck. and it was just immediately poof. I could not move anything below my neck. I couldn't feel anything below my neck. I closed my eyes for impact and I opened them, and immediately I was in a body I didn't recognize. I was in a life that I didn't recognize, and I was completely terrified. I had seen stories like this on TV before. I think we've all seen them, where something like this happens to somebody. They can't move anything. They can't feel anything. You get the updates years later, and these poor souls, they just never move again. And when I used to see these things, it was just like you, Brian. I think what a nightmare. I can't imagine this would ever happen to me. I mean, no way, not me. No way, this couldn't be happening to me. But it was happening, and it's the most real thing that I've ever lived. And I remember just all my goals, questioning them, thinking, am I ever going to be able to go back to school? Am I ever going to be able to see my friends or have a great career and graduate? Or, one day I'll meet a girl and get married and start a family. And I started thinking, more importantly, am I ever going to be able to feed myself again or just walk from point to point?
You're thinking that on the field, or this is in the weeks and months ahead?
Immediately.
Wow.
Yeah. So my mind was really scrambled, because just to make this even crazier, the referee didn't even stop play at that point. So they were continuing to play around what looked just like a corpse of a body with me laying there. I was screaming as loud as I could. But I couldn't move anything.
You were screaming. You were able to generate breath and all that stuff.
Yeah, as loud as I could, but it probably wasn't much louder than just a regular talking voice. And my training staff, they sprinted over. They create kind of a barricade around me. Our main trainer looks at me and said, Rob, what's wrong? I say, I broke my neck. I can't move anything. I'm really freaking out. So they create this barricade. The play comes back over to us. They're kind of blocking folks, making sure they don't drop on top of me. Because if they did, I certainly would have led to a worse injury. I might not have even survived that. We ended up scoring, and this is what stopped things, where I could just kind of think. And they're really taking their time, trying to make sure that my neck is stabilized. They're kind of poking and prodding me, on my shoulders and legs, saying, Robert, can you feel this? What about this? What about this? My answer is just no. They're saying, they put their finger in my hand. All right, Robert, squeeze my hand as hard as you can. I mean, I'm giving everything I have. Nothing is happening. Wiggle your toes, Robert. Nothing is happening. I'm closing my eyes and I'm praying as hard as I can. I'm saying, God, I need you right now. I don't know why this happened. I don't know what is going to happen from here, but I need you. And, eventually they put me on a stretcher. I went over to the hospital to take some medical imaging. That's when my doctor comes back and gives that prognosis, that you said in the intro, where he says, Robert, you'll never walk again. You'll never move your hands. You will be lucky if you can do something like pick up a piece of pizza and bring it to your face. If you can do that, you made it. If you can just feed yourself, you beat all the odds. And he doesn't stop there. He recommends spinal fusion surgery to me. He explains that the disc in between my C5-6 vertebrae ruptured into my spinal cord, causing this paralysis. I also had a fracturing on the C5 and C6 vertebrae. The damage that was done to my spinal cord might only continue unless we fuse this region, essentially permanently casting it, going in through the front of my neck to perform the surgery. He says it's my best chance at any sort of recovery, but, and there's always going to be some kind of but, right? It was a potentially life-threatening surgery. For this, they moved the esophagus over to operate on the spinal cord. My body was already incredibly deconditioned. You got a lot of important real estate right here. If something was a little bit off, this surgery could get bad really quick. And he told me I had 30 minutes to make my decision.
Oh, gosh. Now, hold on. You said your body was decommissioned. What do you mean by that?
Just deconditioned. I was spiking a fever up to 103, 104 degrees already. My brain had essentially been disconnected from the rest of my body. So just the implications that happen from there, your body is severely weakened. If there's some sort of complications in the surgery, they just get exponentially increased.
You're saying that you had this on the field, and they tell you have 30 minutes to decide on this surgery.
Yeah, probably about 3 hours after.
3 hours, which are in the midst of the most stressful, most painful 3 hours of your life. You have to make the most important decision for the rest of your life.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
My word.
Yeah. So he told me I could make some phone calls before I made this choice. So the first phone call I made was to my religious advisor. I didn't have the odds on my side. I didn't have signs of life showing up in my body. I didn't have some doctor that said that everything was going to be okay, but I knew I had God, and I needed that connection. So I make this phone call to ask for prayers, to ask for advice, and thank goodness I did, because the advice he gave me that day, he gave me so much power in what felt like a powerless situation. It's just carried me ever since. And he said, Robert, what happened to you is terrible. And throughout this journey, there's going to be a lot of things that you can't control. But the one thing you can control is your mindset. So your positivity, your ambition, your willingness to wake up every day and fight this is up to you. This injury can't take that away from you. So I knew that the road ahead of me would have immense challenges. And even just the decision to go into the surgery, emotions were just swirling around in my brain like crazy. It's so hard to be able to calm all that down, to just make a clear-headed decision. But just having him tell me those simple words that I was always in control of my mindset gave me something that I could focus on, something that I had power over. And that helped give me the strength to decide to go into the surgery.
For our listeners, I'm talking with Rob right now via computer, so we're seeing each other. So good news, just to let a little bit of tension, stress out. As he's talking, he's moving his hands and his arms a lot. So at least we have some good news here. So if you're really, really hyper bumming out, what I'm seeing here is pretty encouraging. He's got some stuff he's going to share with us. I just wanted to give you like a little bit of good news in case you were at all like me, that's your number one fear in life is being paralyzed. So how does this work? Spinal cord gets severed, as I understand. The spinal cord gets severed and it never grows again, from what I understand. You can't move your arms in your hands, and yet now you are moving your arms in your hands. So what is science? What's willpower? Just fill me in.
It's a lot of mixture of factors. So to kind of explain how this injury works, we can think of it as a light switch and a light bulb. When you flick a switch, an electrical current gets sent through a wire that goes to the bulb and it's activated. In the human body, that light switch would be our brain. That's what's sending the signal. Our spinal cord would be the wires. These are living wires that exist from our brainstem and branch out to all the muscles in our body to help us move them, to help us feel. And then our muscles and the sensory functions would be that light bulb. And what happened essentially in my injury is that wire was snipped. It was cut, frayed. When you do that to a light switch, you can turn it on and off. The switch is fine. The switch works. The light bulb is fine. It's just the wire that's conducting that electric current is not working anymore. It needs to be repaired. Now, the spinal cord is like a fiber optic cable. There's many, many nerves, and the system is also very interconnected. So for me, I actually, what's called an incomplete injury. The most broad classification of spinal cord injuries would be complete and incomplete. Complete means that you have no motion or feeling whatsoever below your injury level. Now, in the beginning, I didn't. And after that kind of spinal shock period had sort of dissipated, over the next few hours, a deep pressure sensation. So you could put a knife in my leg and it wouldn't hurt, but I'd say, there's something there. And with these injuries, things become very relative. And relatively, that was a good thing to have. It showed hope. It showed that there were still signals that were interacting in all parts of my body. It wasn't a very strong signal, and it didn't go to my motor function at all at that point, but there was life. There was some hope. And even for the complete injury, there's ways for regeneration. So there's a few different ways. One is these are living wires. They're not made out of copper and other metals. These wires can grow.
Living wires. I like that.
Yeah. With our nervous system. So, they do grow. It's a very slow process. And when you have these injuries, your body's response is to develop scar tissue in that area, just like you would have, if you got a cut on your skin or, an ACL tear or something like that. The scar tissue can't conduct a signal. So it essentially blocks it off. That scar tissue can hinder. That's a recovery. That's why these injuries are so chronic. The second way is, that you can find new pathways to the same muscle. So like I said, the nervous system is interconnected. The muscles that open the hand don't have just one nerve group that's making it over there. Your brain just uses that same nerve group over time because that's what it's used to and that's what it's worked. So for me and other people with injuries like me, we do thousands and thousands of repetitions trying to activate a muscle group. And as you do that, the brain kind of experiments with this blockage that it's seeing in the spinal cord. And over time, maybe it tries out a new route to work its way to this muscle group. And then you get something like a twitch of a finger or a twitch of a toe. And over time, you continue to do this. The muscle gains back its strength. The signal gets a better connection to where you're moving around your arms, you're able to feed yourself, and you're walking.
Wow. That's great. That's fantastic. So that's when I'm seeing somebody in quote unquote rehab. They're shaken to do the most seemingly simple movements. They're acting like they're trying to bench press 500 pounds, but there's nothing. That's the resistance that they're feeling, finding a new neural pathway. Mm-hmm. Is that right?
That's exactly it. Yeah, that's it. And like I said, it just takes so many reps, and it takes so much effort for much of my motion. Like say in my hands or in my legs, if I were to just give like a typical amount of effort, in my face or these areas of my body that are completely connected, I wouldn't even get a twitch of a muscle. But if I really strain, if I give it everything that I got, I can get this muscle to move a little bit. And over time, as I do this, that strength, the signal of this, it increases, to where eventually it's habitual.
So I got to tell you, hearing your story, these Arkansas State people and the referees really pissing me off. I gotta tell you, I don't know what I'm more upset about. A referee not doing his job, illegal stuff, keep playing while you're actually down. I'm just hearing the story and I'm pissed off. What are you like?
Yeah, I was pissed off. I was. Yeah, key word there. So At first, we didn't really know what happened to me. The game footage was not a very good angle up in the press booth. It just looked like a mass of players have gone down and one player didn't get up. And I was so in the moment that it was hard for me to just keep tabs of every little thing that was going on. As far as I knew, there were some bad binds. The play went down, but it happened so fast. I didn't have, everything analyzed. It was about 3 days later into my injury that this evidence started to produce itself. Still footage from sidelines in the end zone, videos from just bystanders holding up their camera that clearly showed what was done to me was illegal. There was a bind around my neck. That bind brought me down to the ground, and increased as I went down, to which led to this injury. And when I saw that, I was filled with so much rage, so much hatred. In the sport of rugby, if someone hits you, you hit them back. You hit them harder. That was my instinct. I had just been hit harder than I ever could possibly be in my entire life. Everything that I was going through, which at the time was pneumonia. I couldn't even swallow anything. I lost 60 pounds in a month. I couldn't breathe for myself. It was torment. It was torture. All of that was because of the actions that someone did to me. So when I looked at these pictures and I watched these videos, I had a rage within me that I could barely control. Barely. I worked back to that control your mindset principle that my religious advisor gave me. It was very much one of those WWJD moments where I'm thinking, okay, God, what do I do with this? I'm praying about it a lot. I've got this hatred within me. And from what I know about our faith, that hatred is toxic. And we're taught to forgive always. Not just at a certain degree. And when it gets over that, you have an excuse. No, there's never an excuse. We always have to choose forgiveness. So I did. People would ask me, Robert, what do you think about this guy? What's your take? And I would say, I forgive him and I wish him well. It's controlling my mindset. But within me, I still felt a lot of anger, felt a lot of hatred to that guy still internally. Regardless of what I was feeling, I continued to say those words. Everything that came out of my mouth was that I forgive him and I wish him well. And as I said those words, and as time went on, that hatred slowly went down and that anger slowly vanished, where here I am today, completely freed of all of that negativity, realizing that if I were to hold on to that anger for the rest of my life and withhold forgiveness from that person, the only person I'd be hurting is myself.
Is that person the referee, the guy in the headlock, or the guy who hit you from behind?
It's the guy in the headlock.
Yeah.
The referee, I don't know what he saw on that field. It's possible that he couldn't have seen this and he didn't choose it. You can take away every factor but one, and I would have been fine. If that guy didn't have that arm lock around my neck, we wouldn't be on this call today. I'd be out playing rugby. None of this would have happened. It was that one move that certainly led to this outcome.
And he's never reached out to you?
Yeah, that's correct. He's never reached out. He's never said he's sorry. I'm approaching 2,000 days that I've been battling this injury. But I forgive him whether he's sorry or not. And I do hope that he knows that, because I don't know what he's going through. And he could be going through a lot. I hope that he reaches out, and I hope that I can tell him those words, in person or over the phone. But regardless, I've made my decision. I forgive him.
But do you think he even knows? Is there a chance he doesn't know?
Pretty slim. Yeah, pretty slim. And the rugby community really rallied around all of this. I go to a Barnes and Noble and nobody knows who I am, but I go to a rugby match and it's the pseudo celebrity is here, Robert Paylor. It's just amazing how this niche sport is just incredible how these folks rallied around and shared the word. So I think it's nearly impossible that he hasn't heard of it. I just hope that forgiveness goes through.
Yeah, it's a really good word, the forgiveness, because it's been said before. I'll quote somebody who said it. Bitterness is fruitless as eating rat poison and expecting the rat to die.
Yep,
we're the ones that die, and I think that energy that we spend rehearsing comebacks and rehearsing vengeance, all that energy, we only have so much energy in our life, so much energy to build a life or so much energy to have an anger fantasy. And I think forgiveness is a really, really big deal. But there's some things to be easy to forgive for, but others man, forgiving that somebody hurt my feelings in a meeting is not the same kind of forgiveness that you're having to practice. How are you doing it? What got you to be able to do it? Or are you still having to do it and convince yourself to do it every day? Because forgiveness is normally a process.
Yeah, it was a process, and that process probably lasted a few months to where I could really say that all that hatred and anger was completely gone within me, and it was deliberate, and it was mind over matter. It was trusting God and his teachings, that this was the path for me to take. I kept falling back on that kind of WWJD type mindset, to be completely honest. It was simple. That doesn't mean it wasn't difficult, because it was. Be in control of your emotions, suppress that, and choose the right choice, because I knew what it was. I think most of us do know what it is. It's just acting on it that's difficult, but I'm glad I did, because it's paid off.
For those of us who are younger and weren't around for those wristbands, or we were older and we're kind of outside of the Christian club, WWJD, what would Jesus do? And I'm really challenged to think more highly of those wristbands than I used to. I used to hate those wristbands. I just felt like it was Christian advertising and trying to be one of the cool kids. But my goodness, I don't know that I've actually met somebody who's had as high of an octane test about what would Jesus do as you. Oh my gosh, dude, you're freaking paralyzed and you're taking the words of Jesus and you're saying, I'm going to forgive somebody even though they've changed the rest of my life. And my question is for the rest of us, okay, what exactly is it you can't forgive? What is it that you can't get over? What did your girlfriend do to you? What did your boss say to you? It's hard to think of many things that could be worse that would happen to us than somebody responsible for taking away my mobility, taking away all that affords. And for you to be pushing us on this, Rob, this is freaking epic, man. Way to go.
Thank you.
So where are you right now in the healing process?
So after the surgery was very successful, I found myself in this critical period where, like I explained, I was battling pneumonia. I couldn't swallow anything. Death was with me.
60 pounds in 1 month you lost?
Yeah,
my
60
gosh.
pounds in a month, all of it. Everything I worked for to build up my body and my strength, gone, completely gone. And I couldn't do anything about it. I was bedridden for the vast majority of that 1 month. And I needed my faith for every second of that. I needed my family. I needed my friends. I needed these complete strangers and living angels who came there to visit me in the hospital every single day to say that they believed in me, because they believed in me in the moments where it was difficult for me to believe in myself. And when trained medical professionals didn't believe in me, that's what kept me going. And that carried me on. Eventually, we started thinking about where I was going to do my rehabilitation, where I was really going to fight out of this paralysis. And we looked for the best facility in the United States. That's Craig Hospital, just outside of Denver, Colorado. That's the one we chose. And I show up to Craig, and honestly, I was not expecting some pretty picture or uplifting environment. Everybody in that place is dealing with the same situation as me. A lot of them even worse. I'm thinking this is not going to be like some pick-me-up of a place, but I show up, and the patients, they've got smiles on their faces, and they're saying, Robert, welcome. We're so excited that you're here. You're going to love it here. And I was kind of like grabbed by the shoulders and say, hey, you're supposed to be sad and depressed. Like, why are you smiling? Like, right. Blink twice if you need me to help you get out of here. That was the reality of this place. I mean, the staff, they looked at us and they saw potential, not a bunch of broken bodies. And my doctor, my neurologist, the first meeting that we had, he said, Robert, yes, what happened to you was terrible, but we don't know where you're going to progress from here. You might walk out of these doors one day, and you very well might not. But the one thing we do know is we're going to give you every bit of modern science and medicine has to offer. We're going to give you every bit of effort that we have to make sure that you walk out of those doors. So they didn't give me a guarantee that everything was going to be okay, but they guaranteed me their best, and I went for it. It was 8 to 9 hours of very intense physical rehabilitation every day. I'm trying to get somebody that can't move to move, and that just so happens to be about 80% of my body. But in the coming months, I came into the hospital bed in a stretcher, not able to move anything below my collarbone, to where I looked down and I could twitch a finger and I could twitch a toe. And a year later, it's about 365 days I spent in a hospital. I was able to get up on my feet into that walker with assistance, and I walked out of the hospital doors. I did the impossible, and I ate that piece of pizza that I was told I'd be lucky if I would ever eat again. And that's not the last time I've ordered pizza and called it rehab. But, that then afforded me the opportunity to return back home, to Sacramento, where I spent that summer there preparing for my return to UC Berkeley over at Cal to get my degree in business administration from the Haas School of Business, where I graduated in May of 2020, all while continuing at my rehab to where now I can stand up out of my wheelchair into my walker on my own, and my max walking endurance is 400 yards. This journey is very long and it's difficult.
You can walk right now unassisted, not holding on to anything for 400 yards?
With a walker, I can walk 400 yards.
Well, yeah, still, wow, dude, come on.
Yeah,
that's
amazing.
My gosh. Now, with that kind of progress, those kind of metrics, is the advancement linear, or at some point is it not linear? Because if I'm going like after 2 years, you're doing that, do you just keep progressing, or do people just stop at a certain level?
Yeah, so it's interesting. The doctors, they told me that my optimal window of recovery would be in the first 6 to 9 months. That's when I could see the most progress. My total window of recovery would be around 2 to 3 years. After that, I should expect it to completely plateau. My spinal cord is just where it's going to be for the rest of its life. Now, I'm about 5.5 years out of this injury, and I continue to see progress. And I think the reason that those statistics are the way they are, in large part, is because that's when people kind of give up. They've been going I've been doing this for 3 years, and it is hard. Don't get me wrong, it's the hardest thing I've ever done. And every day when I look at that walker, man, there's times when I sit there on the edge of my bed and I'm staring at that thing for like 20 minutes before I actually get up into it and start going, because it is difficult. But I think that, the more we have this patient trust in this process and we stay consistent, it's not always the most intense workout in the world, but it's consistent, and we keep going after it. We keep putting in the effort that needs to be put in. We continue to see that progress. So I'd say, honestly, the progress is like a staircase. So I'll be doing my thing. I'm working out. I'm seeing no progress for, could be 1 month, 2 months, nothing at all. And then just pop. I just doubled my PR walking. And then I kind of stay there and then it pops. And, during that kind of flat period, it takes a lot of trust. in this process, and and a lot of prayer for that strength to keep moving forward, because it's very tough to put in that much effort and see nothing.
What a great line, quote unquote. That's when people give up. So they say 2 to 3 years, probably not for scientific reasons, but that's what the data shows. The data shows that's how much time people have for stick-to-itiveness. That's great. I just found out we've got my day job is leading a church. We've got a staff of about 300 people here that we lead, and I just found one of our younger staff members got married a few years ago. He's still in his 20s, and I just found the most depressing statistic was that everybody in his wedding party is all divorced now. He's the only one left, and it's like you're out of your 20s. It's like just people giving up. Oh, it's too hard. Oh, they're not my soulmate. Oh, I can't. It's so hard. Even though I can walk and I can feed myself with pizza and I could do a 10K and I can bend down, tie my shoes. It's so hard. If only I had it easy like Rob Paylor. He has it so easy. I'm trying to be a motivator. I'm motivating by belittling, but you know what I'm trying to do, because this is what you do now. You're a motivator. You said you're put on people to help people move. Is that what you say and believe?
Yep. Born to move people.
So even if you're not moving all that well yourself, you're moving people. How are you moving people right now?
Yeah. I think this is such a great question, because it actually really helps explains, what has kept me going the last 5 years. My commitment was to walk and get better. In a marriage, it's a lifelong commitment in a relationship to another person. And I think when we make those commitments, it has to be a selfless commitment, a commitment that's dedicated to someone else. And that's what keeps us going. When I first got hurt, I just wanted to walk and get better for myself, as a selfish desire. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. Who's going to blame me for not just being able to move my body for my own personal satisfaction? And it'll change pretty quickly for me when I just started getting flooded with thousands of messages from people all over the world, really pouring their hearts out, saying, Robert, I'm going through stage 4 cancer right now. And, doctors tell me I only have months to live. And me witnessing you take on your challenge and fight it every single day is giving me the strength to keep moving forward. You're saving my life. People who are dealing with severe depression, suicidal thoughts, loss of loved ones, terrible situations, a situation nobody should ever have to go through. It was filling my heart so much, to be able to see, that what this impact was making on others. Because the biggest thing that I lost with my injury was not my ability to move. It was my purpose in life. My purpose was to be a good athlete. I loved it. I could, I could celebrate that with my teammates. I had this selfless commitment to them. And, I was achieving excellence in my life. And then because of something I couldn't control, it was completely gone. And that's the thing that I prayed about most, was just purpose in my life. I always, thought that God has a plan for our lives, and that plan is good. And it was really hard to see how this injury could possibly be a part of any plan. And if it was, that plan seemed pretty messed up. But I still, I had trust in that plan that God would heal me. And more importantly, God would use this injury for a greater purpose. When I started to see the impact it was making just online and over social media, it was evident how this purpose was really developing in my life, really a mission from God to take what happened to me and turn it into a gift. And that's a gift that I can share with other people, through these lessons and experiences. And, eventually when I got back to college, these opportunities started to present themselves to go and speak, to share my story with this overall sentiment in overcoming adversity, that you look at me and you can see a person that deals with significant challenges every single day. It's the nature of my adversity. That's not the case for most people, but whether challenges are visible or not, everybody's dealing with something. Everybody also has something that paralyzes them. Yes. I think. Yes. Maybe not physically like for me, but mentally, emotionally, spiritually, everybody has something that stops them from being their best. And these tools that have helped me to overcome my physical paralysis and also that mental, emotional paralysis to keep moving forward, I think it can help everybody overcome those things that paralyze them. I got together with my rugby coach and we spent months crafting a message and principles that have helped me in my life that I can then go out and share with others, with God's people to help them be able to pursue through these challenges and to stay strong in their faith and in their relationships. It's revealed the greatest purpose of my life. It's something that's so strong, and you might think I'm a lunatic or a liar when I say this, but it's so strong that I wouldn't even change what happened to me. If I could go back to May 6, 2017 and uninjure myself and make this never happen, I wouldn't, and I couldn't, because this ability and purpose to make a positive impact on the lives of others through sharing this message and speaking is so much more powerful than the abilities that I had to move my body.
Interesting. You're saying that this affliction you have, if that's what you want to call it, it's opened up a door for doing ministry and helpfulness that you wouldn't have had you not had this affliction.
That's right.
Yeah. Wow. That's deep. That's really deep. I think we all want a life filled with purpose. We just don't want it to be difficult. You know what I mean? We want to have our cake and eat it too, but it's the difficulty that all too frequently is what prepares us for the purpose, whatever it is.
Yeah, I think it's so much easier to find God and to find purpose when we're in those low points of our life, when we're reaching and we're grasping for something, and there's so much that's not there, but God is there. I certainly felt that in that hospital and my lowest points when I'm reaching and I'm searching for the ability to be able to just go outside, and the ability to get dressed and ready for the day in less than an hour, and trying time and again to just do something like tie my shoes.
Right.
When I'm reaching those things and I'm not finding it, I'm finding God, and that's when I'm finding that God is all I need.
I'm reminded of 2 Corinthians 1:4 that says, "It is the God who comforts us in our affliction, so that we may be able to comfort those who are in any affliction with the comfort with which we ourselves are comforted by God." So you're living that one. You've gotten comfort by God, and now you're able to comfort people that only you could comfort because of your situation, where maybe they wouldn't receive the same message of comfort from myself. So that's great, Rob.
Yeah, that's absolutely right.
All right, so we normally end our time with the lightning round. Lightning round is when I give you a topic and you got to answer it like quick as lightning, like 1, 2 sentences. Yeah, I know. I knew it's going to happen. Like, whenever I'm talking with a true blue communicator, I talk about this, they light up. They're like, oh, put me in, coach. You're smiling like a butcher's dog right now. Like, okay, a communication challenge. I love it. So we're gonna modify the lightning round for you. Instead of giving you something like, what's the most aggressive mistake you've ever made or some such thing, I'm going to give you quotes that you've actually used, and I want you to do some lightning fire motivation for us. It can take longer than 1 or 2 sentences. Just motivate us here. Nothing wrong with being a little motivated. Are you up for the challenge, Rob Paylor? Are you up for it?
I'm so up for the challenge. Let's go.
Okay, here we go. Quote number 1. While my life exceeded all the expectations that were set 5 years ago, I still maintain hope for more.
We all have one life. I've realized that, and I'm going to make the most of this life. I'm going to get out of this wheelchair one day, or I'm going to die trying.
Awesome. Here we go. Another one. I will not quit. I won't quit, and I can't quit. I will either get out of this wheelchair permanently one day, or I will die trying.
Yeah, I have this no quit mindset because of that selfless commitment to others. When I feel like quitting on myself, I don't quit because I'm doing it for somebody else.
That's good. Let's interact on that more. You're doing it for somebody else. So much of our stick-to-itiveness bravado comes around to us feeling like we're superior or others should be inspired by me because I'm so disciplined. But that's not what you just said. What do you mean that you're doing it for others? Explain.
Yeah, it's a selfless commitment. And I would love to tell you the story of how it all began. And it was about 5 days into my injury that my high school was hosting a prayer service for me to pray for my healing and pray for my strength. And to actually give some more context to this, I used to coach youth rugby camps in the summers. I would come back from Berkeley to Sacramento, and I'd coach youth age range like 10 to 14. And there was this one kid over there whose name was Talon. And Talon was one of the smaller kids out there on the field, but he was like played with heart. You know, he was like a Rudy type. And I remember I would give him the ball and I'd pick him up, like bobbing and weaving between these 13-year-olds so he could go score. And it was shared this real bond. And it was on the day of this prayer service that my dad showed me a picture on his phone of someone who I didn't recognize and was obviously fighting for his life. You know, his hair is white and thin. His skin is pale. His body's just skin and bones. And then my dad tells me that this kid is Talon. And Talon was fighting stage 4 cancer. And it was a part of this picture that his mom wrote a caption. And it read along the lines of, Talon wanted so badly to be at this prayer service today to pray for Robert, but had to be in the hospital undergoing chemo. And he's wearing his Jesuit rugby shirt that the Jesuit rugby team gifted him in his first round of chemo. And the message goes on further, and it says this line that is just seared into my soul, and it changed everything for me. It said, "Stay strong and keep smiling, Robert. Your strength helps Talon stay strong too." And when I heard those words, I saw this picture of a kid who was fighting for his life, praying for me, my commitment forever changed. I was thinking, here is the epitome of that selfless commitment. This kid has everything in the world to complain about. He's a 15-year-old kid fighting cancer, should have his whole life ahead of him, and should be able to do whatever he wants, but he has to be sitting in this chair undergoing chemotherapy. And he's not saying, woe is me, look at all that I'm going through. He's thinking about me, and he's praying for me. That I just try to epitomize and live with that sort of practice, that sort of selfless commitment every single day. And I try not to let that memory of him die out, because after about 4 years and a long, hard-fought battle with cancer, Talon passed away. But Talon died a winner, and he died a fighter, and he lives on in so many of us that we ought to live like he did, that we live with that selfless commitment to others, because that's what helps us maintain positivity. You know, whether we're in a hospital or we're just going through a little thing that shouldn't be controlling our mindset, but it is. That sort of selfless commitment is key to overcoming challenges, because that life lived for others is a life of purpose. And when we have that purpose, there's really no challenge that we can't overcome.
Good stuff. Here's another one. We might not have control over our mood, whether we're happy or sad, but we can be optimistic people all the time. We can be ambitious people all the time.
Yeah, that's controlling our mindsets. I think our mindset is distinctive from our mood. We can't just flip a switch and decide whether we're going to be happy or whether we're going to be sad in a given moment. But I do believe that no matter how we're feeling, we can keep moving forward. We can always take a mountain of a task that might be in front of it, and we can boil it down into one simple thing: the decision to control our mindsets, the decision to just keep moving forward.
Last one. I'm going to be a damn good man. I'm going to live a damn good life.
Do you mind if I extend this one from the lightning round too? Because it's pretty
Please,
beautiful.
yes, of course you can. Hey, like, I'm going to tell the paralyzed guy I can't do something.
Awesome.
Yes. So you can basically do anything you want. Yes.
Yeah. So it was this incredible life-changing experience I had. It was 1 year after my injury. I was invited to go on a religious pilgrimage to Lourdes, France, a place of miraculous healing. I was going there really hoping and praying to be healed. That I would stand up, I would be completely healed. And, over the course of this pilgrimage, I didn't have that miraculous, instantaneous physical healing that I was praying for and I was asking for. But I had this incredible experience. And how it went, we were going up to, this mountain, and it was all gravel, a beautiful place, the Stations of the Cross. And it was very difficult for me to get up there, because I was in a wheelchair. Most people probably would have said, like, sorry, Rob, we just can't help you out here. This is just not accessible. It's not going to work. And I would have been okay with that. But these people all rallied together. One of them was a guy who only had one functioning lung, and the other, a couple of volunteers. And I mean, they were just huffing and puffing and sweating. People who were complete strangers like a week ago, really putting themselves out there for me, especially the guy, who's dealing with this cancer treatment, one functioning lung. He said he was winded just going up a flight of stairs. I couldn't imagine what he was going through there. All of us, we call them malads, kind of sick or injured folks. We got together. We started talking about our experience. And it was in that moment that I was talking about what I was going through and how this guy was helping me, how all these people were helping me out throughout the last year. And I said, for the first time, and I actually meant it, I said, I might never walk again. And I started crying at that point because that was the first time that I ever admitted I might never get out of my wheelchair ever again. Before that, I would kind of say it just to get my nurses and doctors off my back, because they'd kind of be like, well, hope for the best, but prepare for the worst. And I was like, no, I'm going to make this happen. Yes. But in this moment, I came to terms with that. I said, I might never walk again, but I'm going to be a damn good man. And I'm going to live a damn good life because I have God with me. I have these living angels here around me, here to pick me up and keep me going when I can't carry myself. And that's why I said I wouldn't change what happened to me. Because of these people that are surrounded with me and because of the experiences that I've been given. It was life changing. And, I think we all have those living angels around us. I know we all have, God with us every second of our lives, that no matter what we go through, we can always be good people and we can always live good lives. We have to trust in it.
Yeah. What I'm really challenged by with what you've talked about with us the last hour or so was, I started off with, just being freaked out that this could happen to me someday. How would I respond? And I have other people in my life who are, who have gone through the same affliction. We had we had a guy on a few years ago, Ryan Atkins, who's quadriplegic, and he hasn't had the same recovery as you have for a variety of reasons. All the injuries are different, but I find myself just freaking out over what if that happened to me. But what I'm hearing from you though today is really what it's about isn't so much your physical condition as it is your mental and spiritual condition. And maybe that freaks me out so much, it's a sign that my spiritual condition might not be as good as I think it is. Maybe it freaks me out so much because I'm not sure that I could be happy or have to use your words, a damn good life if I wasn't doing the active things I do right now. So that's a really good push, brother. I appreciate that greatly.
Yeah, absolutely. It's such an important perspective to maintain that, what truly matters in life isn't our physical abilities or objects that we have. It's all that which lies within. These are the things that we take with us. This is the meaning of our lives. People don't look back and, nobody was going to say like, wow, Rob Paylor, he could really lay a tackle. Now they're going to say, wow, Rob Paylor, he really moved forward with resilience. And he took what should have been a curse and he turned it into a gift, and he gave that gift to others. And, that's true meaning. That's true purpose. It's scary. It's scary to get there, and it's scary to think of anything like this happening. But, after having really gone through the thick of it and kind of come out the other side, I can confidently say that when we trust in God and we act with God throughout these challenges, that we can all find that greater purpose in our lives and that it's always going to be okay.
Rob, is there anything that you want to talk about that we haven't talked about today?
One thing I would say is to always be grateful, and I like to end on that because I always like to remind myself that there's a lot of times when I wake up and I'm paralyzed and I'm thinking, wow, I got to do this another day. I've worked real hard, but I still got to do this, and it's really easy to focus on all the things that I don't have. That's an easy thing for all of us to do. And I always try to remember the things that I do have, the things that I've gained, because that's what's important. And there was a time when I was in a hospital bed and I would have given anything but my faith, my family, and my friends to be where I am today. And I always try to live with that perspective. When I'm going through something tough, I always try to tell myself, compared to what? I'm tired right now, but compared to what? Well, there's a lot that I'm going through right now, but compared to what? There's so much that I do have. There's so much that I can do. I hope we all live with that gratitude and that perspective with us each day, because there are millions of people in this world who would rather be in our situation than their own. That's perspective.
Rob, if someone wants to follow up with you, see what other resources you have, or just be a fanboy or fangirl, where do they go? What do they do?
Yeah. So, best place would probably be just any of my social media accounts, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, TikTok. I kind of got a monopoly on the name Robert Paylor. There's not a lot of Paylors out there. So just a simple search and they can find me there. And also my website, rob.com. There's a chat function right there that goes straight to my phone. But for anybody who is inspired by, this message and does want to connect and has something that they'd even like me to talk to them about, I would love to do that. I would happy to do that. Like I said, it's the purpose of my life. And I appreciate every opportunity I have to do that.
Well, this is called the aggressive life. It's not called the let's have an interesting guest this week life. It's not called the nice thoughts you might want to think life. It's called the aggressive life. And I think you've really given us a push today, man. Some of us have got to get off our rear ends and we've got to forgive somebody. Come on. Rob can forgive somebody who put him in a wheelchair, put him behind a walker. You can forgive the person you think you can't. Some of us need to see the afflictions that we have as fuel to our future and not an excuse as to why we think we don't have a future. You need to start moving. Some of us need to give up our petty grievances with God because our life hasn't worked out the way we thought it should. If Robert can be okay with God with what's happened to him, you and I can be okay with him too, and not just use it as another excuse as to why God's not good, he's not giving me the life I want. Some of us need to do an aggressive move, like tell the friends who are around us, hey man, I'm thankful that you're in my life. I'm thankful for that. I'm not going to take you for granted. Let's learn from Robert's story. Let's make our story better. That's all I got for you today. We'll see you next time on The Aggressive Life.
Thank you so much.
Hey, thanks for listening. For all things aggressive living, why don't you head over to briantome.com. Find my new book, Move, a guide to get up and go forward, as well as articles and much, much more. And no matter where you listen to podcasts, why don't you take a second and leave us a rating, leave us a review. It really, really helps us drive new listeners to the show. We want to help as many people as possible, just like we may have helped you. We want to help others. So why don't you help us out? And if you want to connect, find me on Instagram at Brian Tome. Aggressive Life with Brian Tome is a production of Crossroads Church, Cincinnati, Ohio.